So we're not going as far as we had planned. Go ahead and how your numbers show. You ready to roll? Originally we had planned on doing 2 new pages of the semester exam study guide, but that's not really feasible because you need to work on your study guide for your test tomorrow. And there's another study guide that is calling our attention a little more drastically. So we're not going to do as many as we originally said. We're going to have to do less. Speaking of the test tomorrow is Friday, and that is when I get to type in the zeros for those who have not done their completing the square quiz or those who have not done their math workshop test. So it's really going to hurt your grades. You need to get it together. And if you've done your 3 different workbook assignments, when I get done rambling today, that would be smart to show me so you can have a good grade this week. That would be smart. And then I still haven't seen a lot of people's page 22 and 23 from your notes. So, just reminding you. Okay, let's start with 47. And we'll do a couple of these, and then we'll look at your study guide for your test tomorrow, not your semester exam. 47 asks which system of equations is graphed. I noticed immediately, so there are 2 equations, but the second equation looks kind of similar for each of the options. Now to know the graph, we're going to have to put it in y equals mx plus b, so I know I need to move the x over, so I'll have negative y equals negative x minus 2. So if I change everyone's sign, y equals x plus 2. That's what option A says for that second equation. Yeah. So Seth has a different suggestion. So I was going to graph them and see which the 2 graphs were. Seth makes way more sense. We know they cross at 1, 3. Why not plug in x is 1, y is 3 and figure out the answer that way? That would be way faster. But I've already committed. So, I don't know, just for fun. If I moved a b around, I would end up with the same thing because a and b are the same for the second equation. So b, the second equation, is still y equals x plus 2. C, it was x minus y equals positive 2. So when I move the x over, and I change everyone's sign, I end up with y equals x minus 2. And the same thing happens with D. The second equation is y equals x minus 2. So now to decide, is one of these lines y equals x plus 2, or is one of these lines y equals x minus 2? Let's see. So plus 2, I'm going to color in my coordinate grid because it's really tiny and hard to see.
It's positive. It's y equals x plus 2.
It looks like it's crossing at positive 2. There is no line crossing at negative 2. So it's either A or B.
It's B.
How do you know it's B?
Because for y minus 3x equals 0, add 3x to both sides. And then you have y equals 3x.
You do, and if we have the line y equals 3x, its intercept is 0, it goes up 3 over 1, and that's perfect. And the answer is B, and you can have a point for that. But we're also going to give Seth a point, because honestly, his way would have been way faster to begin with. I know that they're supposed to match at 1, 3, so why not plug in 1, 3? So let's look at our answers. Since we do know which one's the correct one, let's go ahead and look at it. If we plug it into the equation y equals x plus 2, 3 equals 1 plus 2, is that a true statement? Well, yeah, 3 equals 3. As for our second equation, if we plug in y is 3, x is 1, does 3 equals 3 times 1? Yeah, that's true. So the only equation where it will be true for both has to be the answer. If we plugged in all the others, I bet one of those statements would end up being something crazy like 3 equals 5. That's not true. So he gets a point for that. 48 is our favorite, come haunting us again from yesterday. Can you believe we want to know more about systems? We need to know if they're consistent and independent, inconsistent, consistent and dependent, and inconsistent and dependent. One of those answer choices is dumb, and we've never used it before. Which one should I get rid of? Yes. 3 gets the point. D's out. That has never meant that when we say inconsistent, we stop there. Okay, so we could put it in y equals mx plus b. Let's do that. So we had 2x plus 3y equals 10. I move my x over, I'll have 3y equals negative 2x plus 10. I divide by 3, I'll get y equals negative 2/3 x plus 10/3. And that was the top equation. As for the bottom equation, it was 4x plus 6y equals 20. So that's 6y equals negative 4x plus 20. When I divide everybody by 6, I'll get negative 4 over 6, but that reduces to negative 2/3. I'll get 20 over 6, but that reduces to 10/3. So I end up having the exact same equations. They have the same slopes, they have the same intercepts. So what answer choice should I choose? Yes, 6. Hit C, it's consistent and dependent. Okay, and if you need to do all that work, that is definitely allowed. No one's mad at you for doing all that. But if we're honest, I knew the answer immediately to begin with. How did I know the answer to begin with? I did look at the equation, and what did I realize? Yes, I realized every can have a point. I realized they were multiples of each other. So if I multiply that top equation by 2, it would be 4x plus 6y equals 20. Hey, that's what the bottom equation was. So technically they matched. So then we're not surprised that when you graph them, they were in the same line. So that's why it's consistent and independent. And if you recognize that to begin with, you don't have to put it in y equals mx plus b. If you don't recognize that, always put it in y equals mx plus b. Yes?
The other way that you could do it is divide the bottom one
By 2. That's so true. As long as you somehow realize they're multiples of one another, you're going to go. Okay, let's go to 49. Which system is graphed? So I'm looking. Which system is graphed? I'm going to kind of cheat this time. I see that they cross at 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And I automatically know it's not C or D. Because if I plug it in 4 and 1, 4 plus 1 equals 5. Yeah, 4 plus 1 equals 5. 4 minus 1, that doesn't equal 5. 4, and then 1 minus 4 doesn't equal 5 either, or 4 minus 1. They're not going to work. So it has to be the 4 plus 1 equals 5. So it's either A or B. I'm doing Seth's suggestion of just plugging in 4, 1, because that is way faster. Say it again, dear. It is not. It is actually A. When we plug in 4 minus 2 times 1, that's 2, which does equal 2. So it is A. B is going to let us down. On the second equation, when we plug in a 4 plus 2 times 1, we end up getting 6 equals 2, and that's crazy. So it is A. Now, could you figure that out by putting them in y equals mx plus c? Absolutely. Okay, and then I'm loving 50, because I was trying to figure out how on earth a multiple choice question would force you to do elimination. And then I read 50, and I was like, oh, okay. That's how they force you to do elimination and substitution and everything but graphing. It says the first system of this equation is multiplied by 3. By what number would you multiply the second equation to eliminate the x variable by adding? Hunter says 2, but it has to be negative 2. So it's A. I'm still going to give 6 and 1 a point. It has to be negative 2 because we want it to be 12x and all the other stuff, and minus 12x and all the other stuff. If they're not opposite signs, they won't actually cancel out. They have to be opposite signs. So since the top equation is a positive 12, we need the bottom equation to be a negative 12. Yay! Let's go on to 51. I swear once we finish this page, we're going to call it. We're not going to do the 2 pages today, just one. 51 says, to solve the system of equations, 3x minus y equals 5 and 2x plus 3y equals 18, which expression could be substituted for y into the second equation? We used to have 3x minus y equals 5. What variable would be easiest to solve for? So let's solve for it. If we subtract 3x from both sides, we'll have negative y equals negative 3x plus 5. We change everyone's sign, we'll have y equals 3x minus 5. So which answer choice should I choose? Yes, 6, you can have the point. We're going to choose B. Now, if we kept going from here, everywhere in that second equation we saw a y, we would replace it with 3x minus 5. That's how substitution works. But it's kind of hard to force you to do substitution, so that's how they worded the question just so. Yes, baby doll. You said that? I'm sorry. You can have 2 points. I assumed it was Hunter. Okay, Sonia purchased 5 pencils and 2 pens for $5.10. So 5 pencils, 2 pens. I'm just gonna put E. I like E for pens. It's fine. It doesn't matter. I could have done X's and Y's. And it equals 5.10. We purchased 8 of the same type of pencil and 6 of the same type of pen, and we spent $13.20. And then they asked, what is the cost of 1 pencil and 1 pen? What would be the easiest way to solve this kind of a word problem? Five pencils, 2 pens. 8 and 6. What is the cost of 2 pens? Oh, thank you. What would be the easiest way to solve this system? What's it set up for? Am I going to graph it? Am I going to use substitution? Am I going to use elimination? How am I going to handle this? Yes, I'm going to use elimination. Okay, I think I should multiply this top equation by a certain number to get rid of those e's. What number can I multiply by?
3.
Negative 3. Okay, I've had help on this problem from every group, so every group can have a point. It'll be negative 15p minus 6e equals negative 1530. I might want to check my math on that one. That feels right. My second equation I'm not changing. It's still 8p plus 6e equals 1320. I know I'm doing elimination correctly because a variable dies. Goodbye, e. I get negative 7p equals, I need those 2 things added together. Negative 2 point what? That would make sense, wouldn't it? That'd be 1530. Yes, that's right. And then that works out really nicely because when we divide by negative 7, we end up getting what? 210 divided by 7.
0.3. 0.3.
Okay, so that means, and you know, because this is money, I'm going to add extra 0. That's saying 1 pencil is 30 cents. Now, we've still got to solve for the price of a pen, so we can plug it in either equation. I'm going to go back to that top one, the original, 5p plus 2 equals 510. I now know the price of a pencil. I can solve this equation and figure out the price of a pen. That's 1.5 plus 2e equals 510. 510 minus 1.5. I get 2e equals 3.6. I get e equals 1.8. Which again, this is money. So I'm going to add an extra 0. So sadly, a pencil's only 30 cents, but a pen is $1.80. That does not seem very fair, but it is what it is. They asked for the cost of 2 pencils and 1 pen. So we need to do 2 times the 30 cents. So they're spending 60 cents total on the pencils. Plus 1 times the dollar of the pen, so $1.80. And we end up getting which answer choice? Yes, you can have a 0.5. It's 240. Okay, and I know I said we were going to finish this page, but darn you systems for taking freaking forever. We're going to call it on for the semester and study guide there for today. Let's look at your study guide for our test tomorrow. It's on the very back page of your notes. On the very back page of your notes. Can I steal your notes? You got it out from here.
Yeah, it's right here.
Perfect.
There's a packet in, so it's on the packet. So.
On the very last page of your packet, it has 25 questions. As soon as I get done rambling, instead of waiting until the end of the period, as soon as I get done rambling, I'm going to post my key. So if you want to check as you go, that's fine. You and I both know you need to focus on the top four, because you need to make sure you've got completing the square down. That's what I'm most concerned about. The quadratic formula will be fine if you recall the quadratic formula. I'm pretty sure you got that. Something that concerned me though after I saw the word was like, do they remember what the discriminant is? So the quadratic formula was negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And yes, you're expected to know it. It will not be given to you. But some part of that is called the discriminant. What part of that was called the discriminant? You can have 2 points for that, Debbie. The part under the radical is the discriminant. And we spent time in class, and you can look back over your notes. We discussed if it was a positive number in the radical, we were going to have 2 roots, 2 real roots. We discussed if it was a 0 under the radical, you were only going to have 1 real root. We discussed if you were going to have a negative number under that radical, you're not going to have any real roots. Or it's cooler if you say you have 2 complex roots, because that's when we start living in that imaginary number world. But you're going to eat your point for either. Sadly, none of these have a discriminant of 0. You would have thought, since there were 4 of them, one of them would have had a discriminant of 0. Not one of them does. So the discriminant part you might be a little rusty on. But otherwise, quadratic formula, you're good to go. I'm pretty positive 13 to 25 should be a breeze, because that's what we've been doing the past 3 days, and you seem pretty good at it. Again, my largest concern, my biggest concern is the top 4, especially number 3, because the leading coefficient is a 2. So you have to do completing the square, but you have to get rid of the 2 first. Are there any questions about the study guide? It's due tomorrow. The test is tomorrow. If there's any questions you need help with, see me or Miss Brister, we would love to help you. Otherwise, here's your chance to get it done.